I've spoken to Republicans on Capitol Hill who at the moment do not have any faith in the president's willingness to negotiate seriously over the debt situation. And what they've told me is what they're trying to do is, at least from the point of view of the House of Representatives, try to keep the United States economy a couple of steps ahead of Europe. Because you write about a black swan scenario, Eurozoned out, which would mean what?
Well, it would mean the disorderly collapse of the Eurozone. And I think this is the single greatest threat facing the US economy, much greater than the fiscal cliff or sequestration or failure to negotiate a budget. And it is an event, if it were to occur, that would be a defining event in President Obama's 8 years in office. The European Union is the world's largest economy. The US and European economies are inextricably linked through trade, foreign direct investment, and in lots of other ways. There's simply no way in which a major shock occurs in the European economy that doesn't instantly travel across the Atlantic. Scenarios for a disorderly collapse of the euro entail a 10% reduction in GDP for the Eurozone economy, spiraling inflation on the periphery, deflation at the core, and unemployment up to 20% throughout the Eurozone. That would be a much greater shock than the collapse of Lehman Brothers in 2008. Now, the risk has somewhat abated late last year, but it will continue for some time because the underlying causes have not been addressed.
What does the U.S. do to mitigate that at a time when, as I say, the goal seems to be just the United States staying a couple of steps ahead of that eventuality?
Well, the U.S. has one major advantage over Europe, and I don't think a crisis of that magnitude would occur here. Huh?
The platinum coin we have?
Platinum coin, yeah, the platinum coin. But in all seriousness, the fact that the U.S. has a fiscal union as well as a monetary union. I mean, Europe's problems are not just to do with debt and they're not to do with spending. They're primarily to do with structure. And the problem is that they don't have the institutions they need. In the United States, the institutions that are required for a monetary union. But I just make one other point, that this is even more than economic. In the last panel, we heard a bit about China, and there's also a black swan memo on China as well. Ask yourself the question, which countries in the world could survive if their growth levels were halved or eliminated completely? If the world economy went into a tailspin for a couple of years or 3 years? It's the Chinese economy and the Chinese regime that would be very badly affected by that in terms of legitimacy. And so this is interconnected into all of the issues we're talking about. There's virtually no foreign policy issue on the agenda that will be benefited, and in fact all will be severely detrimentally impacted by collapse of the global economy, which would result from the failure of the euro.